Why, in July, the George Honisek School of Art is going to open their studios just especially for the Rotarians. We're going to have special prices for you fellas that have trouble using your arms. I know you use your mouth a lot, but this time you can get the opportunity to use your arms. So I'm going to give you a demonstration of how easy it is to paint these pictures. So you just pick up your brush like this, you have your paint ready. That's it. And you can start here, and you can start out here putting on the sky. Take a little more paint, come over here. Oh boy, what a looking sky. Now this is sort of a South Sea Island picture that you'll all appreciate to hang. So if you daub a little bit here and there, you're going to be all right. Let's go over here and we'll put some trees on. Keep coming down here. These pictures will sell for a lot of money one of these days if you can get it. Especially these fellows like Tom Scott and Mel Keller and them. I know they'd do pretty good in this. You can, if you don't have any brushes, just get a few old worn out house brushes. It'll be all right. We can fix them up. I know you fellas don't have much money, but I think Furnace Axe told me that he had a lot of old brushes around the house that he could use or give to somebody to use. So I think we're taking a little bit too much time on this picture. So to do it up quick, just get yourself a roller and start out and just roll the picture like that. And I think that you'll find out it'll turn out to be a pretty good picture. So don't forget to give me a call. The phone number is 628-2576. But call about noon, and maybe we can talk this out by going out to lunch together.
American Express, MasterCard and Visa accepted. No personal checks. Call today. Limited enrollment.
Well, actually, I was a member of the Lions Club. In fact, I attended 2 of their international conventions, but then when I had the plant here, I couldn't make the dinners in the evening because at that time I had some part-time workers working in the evening, and somebody had to be here with them. We were small, and so Les Page, I think Les Page talked to me about joining Rotary, and I could make it at noon, you know. So actually, that's how I happened to join Rotary. I didn't think I wanted to belong to both of them. I think I belonged to both of them for maybe 2 or 3 months. Then I finally dropped out of the line.
When did you actually join Rotary? How long ago?
Oh, in the 60s. Sometime in the 60s. I can't tell you exactly when, but I got on the board and took the treasurer's job. Had it for a couple of years, and then finally went into president. Got to be president in 1969, and they then from there on, I well, I'll get back a little bit. In '67, Van Dyke and Humbert and I, we decided to go to Europe to a convention in Nice, France. Well, we did that and stayed at Cannes on the Riviera, had a good time, and traveling back and forth to Nice, which that is about 40 miles away. And usually when you go to conventions like that, that's what happens. It's pretty hard to get locations where you want them, so you have to take what's available. And I think what they do is Rotary or any of these other types of organizations that have these crowds up as high as 20, 25,000 people, they get all the hotels that they possibly can, and sometimes it's potluck. But that kind of got me started traveling. Well, we took a American Express tour. We went to Italy, went to Rome, and Venice, Milan, and Florence. In Florence, we made up. We decided we'd go and make up there in Florence, Italy, and we went into I guess it was a hotel or I can't remember where it was, but then that we ate what the name of the place was. But you know, when you go into a place like that, they talk Italian, the program. So if you have somebody in the area, they may be able to talk to you about what's going on. But then what helped a lot, they had wine. They had white wine and red wine, and they had 3 or 4 bottles at each of the tables. And as they went empty, why, they kept putting them in. And I'll tell you, we was getting really high. We had a fellow there from Myersdale. It was time to take up our banners to exchange them for one of theirs to bring back. I guess you understand what that is. And we went up and got him and come back and held towards the end of the program. He says, you know, I didn't take my banner up. See, and he did. But then we learned to sing, too, a lot of the Rotary songs going back home to the hotel. But just to give you an example, then actually I went to, from that time on, I went to 10 international conventions. I went to Lausanne, Switzerland. That's not Luzerne, but it's Lausanne. That's near Bordeaux. Lake Geneva. And we stayed, in fact, in Lake Geneva. I went with Ted Schoenfield from Portage. I met him at one of the conferences up there in, well, where was it? Where we used to hold them up at
Seven Springs?
Seven Springs, yeah. I met him, and we began pretty good buddies, and we traveled. And from there on, after the convention, we went and took a ship. Well, we went to Greece and took a ship and went up into all the Greek islands and up into Istanbul, Turkey. We made up in Istanbul, Turkey, he and I, and then come back and went into Madrid, then into Portugal and back, and then I went to Hawaii, made up in Hawaii in one of the islands there. We had the 4 different islands. We was there for a couple of weeks. We had the convention there. Went into Canada, made up in, well, it didn't really make up in Montreal. We went to the convention up there, but we traveled all through Canada as much as we possibly could in the 2 weeks' time that we had. And I think, well, we went to Mexico City to a convention. Made up there in one of the, in Acapulco, I believe it was. We made up. From there we went to, the next convention I went to was 1971. I remember that real well, and I'll tell you why. We went to Sydney, Australia, which is halfway around the world, you know. And that's going, a complete trip is over the distance of the trip around the world, which is around 25,000 miles. But we went to Sydney and spent probably a week there, and we had some bad accommodations. Ted Schoenfield and Judge Lansbury, which was incoming governor that year, he was along, and quite a few. There was about 10 couple of us who went to these. But we got into Sydney, and if you make application like for a hotel, I think if you notice on these applications, it asks you for whether you'd like to have a host, and we always wanted a host. And these hosts actually spend the whole day with you. They take you out and you can say wine and dine you, whatever you want to say. And this particular host took us out to his home, which is out maybe 40, 50 miles in St. Mary's, and he was telling us how the local Rotary Club fixed our rooms up. They had them all decorated with flyers and fruit baskets and all that, but we didn't show up. We changed our reservations, and Ted got them changed. We stayed right down in the heart of Sydney, you know. So that was quite a disappointment for them. But we then, after the convention, we took a trip. We went into Singapore, and from Singapore we went into Bangkok. And now why I can remember it was 1971, because that's where I quit smoking. I got a bad cold in Bangkok, and when I got into Hong Kong, I was lucky enough to run into a doctor. And how I did that, my daughter, of course, they both went into pharmacy, and she had a friend of hers that went to Hong Kong to work, and she wrote her that we were coming, and they met us, and she took me to one of these Chinese doctors, you know, and he spent about a half hour working on me, and I really had a cold. So he gave me a couple of pills. He said, now you take one, but don't take the other one, you have to. And they were about the size of a pinhead. Boy, when I took that, I'll tell you, all hell broke loose. I didn't have to take the other one, and then I had 4 or 5 packs of cigarettes. I just chucked them in the wastebasket and never smoked after that in 1971. So Rotary did something for me there. But from there on, we went into Taiwan. We had some Taiwanese over here at the exchange program that we had, and I spent some time with them. And it's amazing. I am a Paul Harris member, and we have, I don't know how many members we have in our club, but I know we should have a lot more of them. To get back to the Taiwanese, the one club had 42 members, and all of them was a Paul Harris member, every one of them. Of course, I guess maybe, I don't know what would make them, other than they all were in pretty good positions to buy the membership, which is $1,000. But that isn't bad. I think we have programs set up that you can buy the program for, $100 a year or something. But we then went into Kyoto, Japan, and then I took that bullet train into Tokyo. We spent some time in Tokyo. I made up in Tokyo. John Pepson from Uniontown and a few other ones were with us, and we were down in the hotel lobby. I went over to the man and asked him how we could get to the hotel where the Rotary was meeting, and he told us, he says, but here's a card, you better take this with you. But in the meantime, John says, you know, these Japanese are dumb as hell. He says, they don't understand us. And I said, John, they don't understand that. I said, we don't understand them. So he gave me a card, and on the back of it is something written in Japanese, and John says, I wonder what that is. And I said, it probably says, bring these dummies back here to the hotel. But we got there, and of course, when you go into those different meetings, they're all in the language so you have to read between the lines. But they had a program there that amused me. They had, you thought they was honoring the royalty, but here it was the firemen that they were really honored. They really put on a show. I think what we ought to do too in our club, just to change the story a little bit, I think our programs should be based on things like that, honoring the firemen, the police, the city officials and see what's going on in the city and what we can do to help, or however we want to go about it. Even the state, we have Lincoln, we have Murphy, and them. They would all come down. We've had them there, and I think they make good programs. I think we have to get more involved in different programs of that nature. You know, as you travel, especially at these conventions, there's a lot of things that I remember. I mean, in the United States, I went to 4 different conventions here. One of them in particular was in Houston. For some reason or other, they made me the Sergeant at Arms, in charge of the VIPs, the presidents, the past presidents and the incoming president. And it was at the Astrodrome. I spent 2 days there. My wife and I, we ate with them. And to me, I thought that was quite an honor, because there wasn't too many. I guess they have 6 or 7. I don't know how it come about, but I got a notice there, or a call, whether I would like to be a Sergeant at Arms while I was down there. Just things of that nature. I met a lot of people. Coming back from Mexico, now I can't remember his last name. Is a Japanese that he was the international president. He sat with me and my wife coming back from Mexico, and I think we flew into Dallas. I think it was Dallas, Texas, and we made a change. But I talked with him, and in the programs we had, we've always had picnics, and they cut that out, and it was kind of, I've got movies of some of the past picnics. And
tell us about them. Tell us about the picnics and some of the events. Didn't you used to have a booth up at the county fair at one time?
Oh, there were booths, sure. During my, that was one of my big programs that we had. Otis Beeler made contact with a Chinese restaurant owner down near Pittsburgh to come up and our specialty was shrimp rolls and egg rolls, you know. And we had a booth there, and they tried to put a sort of a cloth roof on it, you know. And the wind blowing, you couldn't do that. I said, hell, let's go get some lumber. So Chuck and I got our truck, and we went down to Sandusky's and bought some lumber, and we put up a good booth, a real good. But we built that thing in a day or two, and what was nice and what was good about that program, we should never got rid of it. I don't know why. Now maybe we didn't make much money on it, because the first year we worked on a commission basis with this fellow, and I don't think we made. But the togetherness, you know, the participation of the members, so that we all come up and we had a lot of fun. There's Dave and Nanny, his both boys, the one of them, the doctor, and John. Hell, they had a lot of fun. They'd come in and work at the thing. And Al Sheets had his boys there, and members too. There's Henry Gordon, all of us. We used to all take a shot at making hamburgers and egg rolls, and we had it for several years. So one time we had our main man, Furnace Sachs. He was the barker. We had some dancing school students up there doing a hula, and boy, and I'll tell you something, you'd think it was a first-class carnival of the circus. We had people all around. In fact, I think we was notified to keep the noise down a little bit. But they were good programs. I think too, just to get onto these programs that I think I talked to you about, the pancake, you know, is getting to be more competitive. You've got the Italians, they're having them, and it's going to get worse. If they find out that you're making money there, you're going to do so. You're going to have to get some kind of a think tank and outsmart them some way or other, give something away, or do something about it. Gene Ghost is in trouble with his to a certain extent too. He started that program, him and I guess Dan Gimmel. I'm not going to give just them two the credit. There's a lot of other ones, but we have 2 or 3 organizations running competition. They found out that we made a few bucks, and so I hope we don't drop it. But I think you just have to just outsmart them, because we got the talent there. You got all the professional people in town, and loads of talent in there. But then I don't think we take for instance, the young members. I don't think we pay too much attention to them. We just kind of ignore them some way. I think you ought to put them to work. I know they put me to work right away. Christ, they indoctrinated me in no time at all. And really, I did a lot of things for Rotary, but I think Rotary's did more for me by me participating. I think too, now I've made up in a lot of countries. I've been, well, out of the 7 continents, I've been in 6 of them. The only one that I never went to is, I guess you know what it is, the cold one, Antarctica. That's why I think maybe that's why I go to Florida every year, just thinking about it. But I've been to over 50 different countries. I've taken quite a few cruises, maybe 10 or 12 cruises. I cruised the Mediterranean. I went down the Rhine River from down into Amsterdam. I went on the main river, which will connect the 2 rivers. That's the Rhine River and the Blue Danube. It's in Bavaria, you know. And I also went to the Blue Danube, which isn't very blue. Got on a boat at Vienna and went down into Czechoslovakia, Bratislava, in Hungary, went into Bulgaria, Romania, then down through the Bosphorus into Istanbul, Turkey. In fact, I was at Istanbul twice. I made up in Frankfurt, been in Africa, South Africa. But it's all through Rotary. And I mean, those trips that kind of indoctrinated me into traveling into these different countries. I went into Russia, of course, no Rotary clubs there, you know. But I think there will be eventually. I really don't know. Well, I'll tell you, when I was treasurer, I hate to say this, but I wrote a check out for $25 and it bounced. So, so I don't think the club was in that good of a shape when it came to making money in programs. Gene Ghost has to be given a lot of credit. Gene and I, we went to an international convention in Atlanta, Georgia. It was quite an experience there, how they really argued on the floor. I think at that time they were arguing about makeups, about somebody losing their, well, if you missed a turn, you know, you've got to give Melvin credit. Melvin Keller, if you noticed in the monthly bulletin there, where he's one of the 50 anybody that can make 50 years without missing a meeting. That's between 25 and 3,000 meetings, you know. I tried it, but I could never make it. There's always something come up. I made up a lot in all the clubs. I made up in Somerset, Myersdale, Uniontown, in Point Marion, Scottsdale. And I think that's a thing that we ought to stress too, that some of the younger members ought to maybe have a couple of members make up in different areas. Because you just can't leave new members set there without putting them to work. Make Rotarians out of them quick. Really, you got that Sergeant of Arms badge there. I never see anybody wearing it. Well, Gene Ghost worked for the dairy, and I think I have a little bit of something to say about Gene getting a job with Eddie Nagel in the insurance agent. I don't know whether they give me any credit or not, but then Gene was looking for a job at the time, and we've become pretty good friends, Gene and I. I think listen, all my travel, all the Rotarians I ever met, and I met a lot of them, I never run into a bad one. Really, I never run into a bad Rotarian. I think you ought to be proud that you're a Rotarian. Hey, you take a fellow like Tom Scott. Tom Scott, every year, he takes that program up there, that Santa Claus program. A lot of them, he don't even get the help that he should have. You understand? But Tom's a good Rotarian. And well, Dan Gimmel, he's a die-hard Rotarian. You know that yourself. But he needs cooperation. There's Al, and there's Al Detter. Well, I know Al only through the handshake. I give him a very light handshake. You know, we make a joke out of it. I say, oh, and I'll say chom, and different things like that. I'm kind of a jokester myself. And Cliff Pritz, I think I met him more so. Cliff Pritz. Cliff was a good friend of mine, and I always asked him how Cliff's doing and so on. We got together like that. And Al's a good fella. They're all good fellas, you know. And that's how I got to know an Al, I think, through this school system. Of course, I'm on the board. I've been on the board of the Tech School for years, I think, since I started up there. I've been the chairman, rather. I went through 3 or 4 different directors already. But Melvin Keller, well, I've known Melvin. In fact, I dealt with Melvin through the insurance company. I had, he insured, I think we had insurance with him here at the plant. We had a group insurance plan with him, with Prudential. That's how I know Melvin. Then Melvin was on the school board too. Melvin, pretty good. Got a nice wife. She should be a Rotarian.
She experienced had you?
Oh, well, the experience I had the other day when I seen you in the lot there, you told me that you wanted this interview. And I says that, well, I don't know. And I said, what do you want it? He said, well, you contacted Van, and he was supposed to give you one when he come back this summer, but Van never made it. And I said, I guess you're putting me in that same category because I'm going to Florida next week.
How about Sam Brooks?
Sam Brooks, well, Sam's a good fellow. We joke a lot, you know. Sam's always, we've had our different banquets and dinners, and Sam was always the MC, and we, of course, I don't want to know Sam too well. He looks at me and
he's eyeing you up.
Yeah, he's eyeing me up. But and then of course Chuck Madord, my son-in-law, you know. Chuck's a pretty good member. He's always been a good member of Rotary, and he's been good for me too, because I'd go 2 or 3 weeks at a time and leave poor Chuck here running the place. And he did a good job. He does a good job.
How about Furnace X?
Oh, you can't beat Furnace, you know. I think I discussed this with you the other day about getting a speaker system. Furnace always used it. Well, most of the time he sits beside me. And the other day we had a lady speaker there, and he says, he wrote a note there. He says, can you hear her? And I wrote back, no. And it's the truth. I think we should have a speaking system, because some of the older boys, I'm getting hard of hearing. I think they asked me about how I could live with a woman for over 50 years, and I says, well, you know, it pays to be a little hard of hearing, but kind of a joke. But Furnace is a good member. I guess he's got a pretty good record. Lou Lynn's got a good record. And Lou's a good friend of mine too.
Tell us a little bit about Lou.
Lou? Well, I've known Lou. Lou's visited me down there in Florida. Of course, I live right across the street there from Van in Florida. I bought right across the street from him. And Lou's been down there several times. I went places with Lou. We went to some of the conferences, and I think that's what's important too. I think that you ought to stress that. We have a man coming up. There's John Fiesta coming up. We ought to all get behind him and go to the conference, especially this year, because I think you learn more at a conference than you do at any Rotary meeting. And I don't think you ought to just go up for the dinner. I think you ought to go and spend a day or two there. It's a good little vacation, and it's something different, and you'll learn a lot. You really will. Do you agree with me there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see things, how Rotary really works, and you'll meet a lot of, hey, some of my traveling companions, they're Schoenfeld and Pepsin. I learned, I met them all through Rotary. Jim Driscoll, oh, Jim, can't beat Jim. I'll tell you, I would say this about Jim Driscoll. If you have a trip to make and you want to go to the foreign country, see Jim Driscoll, he'll put you up to a pretty good trip. He knows his business. I took a cruise with Jim. Taken several cruises with Jim, and this one in particular, we went to Port-au-Prince. We got off the ship. That's in the Caribbean, and there was a group of Rotarians at the dock waiting for some Rotarians to go to their meeting, and we were the only two. So they picked us up and took us up in the mountains and went to the meeting. And Jim, of course, he put the program on for him. Didn't have no program, so Jim was the program. But they fined him 50 cents for not having a badge. And they fined me 50 cents. I had one on for not telling him to wear one. So just a matter of making a buck, you know. But on these cruises, we have these makeups. But it's not just for Rotary. They have a combination of maybe Qantas and the lines, and on their boat, they have a schedule of what time to meet in a certain lounge, and it's good. And I found this out. All the cruises I went to, there's always been more Rotarians attend those makeups and the other two organizations. Well, there might be one or two others, but they would get up and ask you what kind of a programs you had. Some of them, I know one particular Rotarian told me how they made money. That take, for instance, they would stop cars going from one side of the river to the other, and you had to pay a fee to get across, you know.
It's a Rotary Club.
Well, I'd like for them to see me as I am. Some of them may not like me, but I don't think so. I think I've tried to be a friend of all of them. I've tried to do as much as I possibly could for Rotary. I think I could do a hell of a lot more for Rotary, and I think a lot of them, a lot of those Rotarians could do a lot more if it just open up a little bit. You know, we got to a point about the Paul Harris. I know there's some members in there that could afford to be a Paul Harris member. I think it just has to be coached a little bit. I talked to Dan Gimmel about a little program that he might install in about a month or two, which I will donate some money towards to get some Paul Harris members, and I think it'll work. So if you want to, you can ask him about it. Maybe, well, I don't know. And George Honisek, that's about what I'd want him to do. And just some of them call me Uncle George, and of course some of them might call me a lot of other names. But I only feel that, well, I don't know what to tell you. You'll have to look at it and judge me yourself. Not as a singer, not the great singer John and I. we do that to have a lot of fun, and I don't know, maybe a lot of them resent some of the extracurricular. But one thing that I think we have one of the finest Rotary clubs that I've ever been in. I think that you take some of these people that make up in their club will tell you that too. Everybody's kind of loose. I know I've attended some of the Rotary clubs, and they some of them are a little bit too tight. It just seem like a little cold, don't you think? I don't know if you've noticed that, but I think you could go to any of our members there and joke with them. And well, I think Connellsville is unique because it's the type of people. It's a small town, and for all the travel that I've did, a lot of them asked me what I like best, or what city do I like best? Hey, you can't beat Connellsville. I don't know. I'm just a small town boy, and I like Connellsville. But I think we're letting it go to pot. I think with the Rotarians ought to help promote it. Like I say, get with the city fathers and see what we can do. Well, we have a nice program right down here, right down at the river here, that riverfront, and I think we used to have, I told you before, we used to have our picnics. Why can't we have one day, have a Rotary day and have a picnic down there, whether we have bingos that we could make some money on, you know, or a food stand, and invite everybody in the city and let them know what Rotary is. We had a program the other day, they were telling us that nobody knows what Rotary is, and I think we have to promote it, and that'd be one of the good ways to promote it. It doesn't mean that you have to make a lot of money. It means that you have to have that participation in the town. Like Trimba, you know, I think it's Trimba, he's on the council. Hey, you got to give that man credit. He got a lot of ideas. Maybe you might not like them, see, but then he's a pusher, and we need more of them like that. Well, ask Lou Lynn. Lou says he never gets up before 11. But I do. I paint, you know. I paint and I draw and maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody bothers me. And I get up and take a walk. I do a lot of walking, a lot of swimming, and nice big pool down there. We have a poker club. We play once a week down at the administration building. And my wife and I, we don't do much home cooking. We go into Bradenton or Sarasota or Brandon. And it's always, hey, listen, time flies down there. It's great. The weather's great, you know. It gets around 50. It's cold down there, but
Warm here.
here it's a hot spell. But we have good neighbors. We're right on the golf course. The golf course is right around us, and we're 20 in our circle, the Haddington Circle. We have 22 families. I'm not a very good speaker myself, you know. My English is poor. But I try to get it across in my own way. But it never bothered me. And I think at one time it used to bother me, but then I got away from it. I think it worries everybody to a certain degree. They want to do good. I think when you speak, what happens to a speaker, you know, when you're born, your mind continues to go on, but when you start to speak, it stops. You forget everything. I think you think more of how you're presenting the speech and what the speech is all about. Don't you think so? You figure, well, how do I look, or do I sound right, or am I saying the right words in the right way? But to get back to Rotary there, I would suggest one thing, though, that when you have a group of men, pick them out, have a think tank, what we should do here and what we should do there, and I think incorporate some of the young fellas, get their ideas. You have a lot of ideas yourself, you know. Some of them might be a little far-fetched, but that's we all do that. It's an opinion, and you have to go along with the other fellas. But then, hey, that's what it's all about. You know, if we just go up there and eat every day and sing a few songs, get up and go home, that's not Rotary. You're there to serve. If you don't, then you should get out of the club. I think you should be part of it and participate. And a lot of them don't do that. I know when we have tickets to sell, and I had charge of the pancake tickets, and so we've had members never even buy a ticket for themselves, you know. I think you at least ought to buy a couple of them, you know. I'm going to be critical about it because that's the main thing.
Tool and die business.
How would I get into it? Well, I was an orphan as 13. You know, I have to go back to that. And the oldest, one of the family was my sister. She was about 16. Ed was 15, I guess. I was about 13, and brother Jim Prancy, he was about 9, and we were left alone, and we had to go to work. I quit school when I was in the 9th grade, going to the 9th grade, and my sister says, well, you're going to quit school, you have to get a job and help. We had to, because at that time nobody was paying nothing. And I finally says, okay. She said, but I talked to Mr. Lightburn. He was the boss up at the mine supply. He says, you would be an apprentice machinist. Well, that job paid $1.65 a day for 9 hours and 10 minutes a day. You know, the 10 minutes at that time, you wrote your own time out. You didn't do it on the company's time. But before that, I was a Western Union telegraph boy. I delivered telegraphs and stuff like that. But then I got on this training program, and I worked there for 5 or 6 years and as a machinist. And then I went to the old Caps and Glass. I worked out there. I worked with a couple of good men. In fact, I helped put in the first machine that they had out there. It painted tumblers. That's a water glass. They put three strips around they had the red, white, and blue. That's when they were putting paint on it. Fred Allen, he was a top dog, and I was kind of assistant to him, and we put that machine in, as I remember, and I worked there for, I don't know, maybe 2 years, and then left there and went to Chicago and worked in Chicago for a while. That was right in 34, I believe. And I went to Detroit. I worked in Detroit, and I just knocked around, and it's just like working in a fish market. You know, if you work there long enough, you start to smell like fish, and that's the same way the machinist business. You learn how to make tools and dies, and I never went to school for it, but then I become a dye. I worked in Cleveland 2 or 3 times. I worked at the quality gauge. I designed for them, designed dyes, and well, I had to learn. If I was going to stay in the business, I had to learn. Then I come back. I worked at Robertshaw for about 15 years. I worked at Anchor Hawking when it first come back, when it first opened up in 40 or 41. I worked there for about a year, and Ed Boothman came from the company in New York, and he got a job over at Robertshaw, and he waited for me at the parking lot, and he said, George, I got a good job for you. And I said, okay. And so I went to Robertshaw, and I was top dog over there for a good while, until I decided to open up a place myself. I had some machinery, and I opened a little place. But it was tough. Nobody really wants to deal with a part-time shop. But then I did work for Robertshaw. In fact, I tooled their plant in Mexico up right in here. I made their tools and dies because they had automatic progressive dies where 5 and 6 stages, but they wanted single stage dies to put more people to work. You know, the labor was cheap. But in fact, during the war over at Robertshaw, I taught for the school district. I don't know what it'd be, the War Department, and I taught shop math over there. We had about 40 apprentices. Now they know a good bit of trig and whatever it takes to be a good mathematician in our business. But they didn't know how to apply it. What I mean is, you could be a good mathematician, but if you can't apply those figures to the machines, you know, a lot of triangular work that you have to do, and you only have 2 locations of your machine traveling 2 ways, and you have to use a lot of trig. But I was paid by the Youngwood School Board. But I got a certificate from them. But I kept the program for about a year or 2. I didn't want it, but then they picked me out for some reason. And I think I did a pretty good job. But that's how I got into it. And then I decided to go in myself. I run the place part-time and had 5 or 6 fellows working for me while I was working over there. And I said, what the hell I want to do this for? So I quit the job and My wife said, "What'd you do that for?" And I said, "Well, I wanted to go in business for myself." And that's it. She never said much, but she tells me maybe 5 or 6 years after I was getting pretty good at work and making some money, she says, "Boy, you had me scared to death." She said, but it never worried me because I always felt I could get a job. I think if you know your business, you know your limitation, you can get a job because you know you can learn something. But if you can't do the work when you're done. It's like I tell my apprentices out there. I say, you can go through this 4 years. If you don't learn, you're the fool, not me. Because when you go out there, you may have the tile or tool and die work at the die maker, but if you can't handle the job, hey, forget it. Out the door you go. You won't even be there 2 days. Because they know in the first day where they always tell you that if you go into these places to take a job, which I've taken maybe to jobs at a dozen places, they say, well, we'll give you something easy so you get on to it. Like, hey, listen, the hardest job that they got is what you'll get the first day you get in there. They want to know quick because they're not going to pay you that kind of money to teach you. This picture here was taken out of the National Geographic. I don't know, was the letter sent to me or one of the brochures that they sent me. Do you have it?
Mm-hmm.
And I made a drawing of it. This is one of the first ones I did. This was done in 1987. Now this is a watercolor. It's 1987. I actually started this in 86. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of them started. These are watercolor.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is another one here. I never did really finish it. This is the picture that I took it from one of the calendars.
Okay.
And this is the watercolor I made. Yeah, I have a little more work to do on it, but I think it'll be a pretty good painting after I'm done with it. Never finished it.
Okay.
It was done in '87. I took it. I don't know where I've seen the picture, whether the picture's on the back of it or not. Usually, when I see a pretty good picture, I just make a drawing of it or paint it. I have about a dozen good paintings up at the house. I took them up the other day. This is from a photograph here. This is Chuck's picture here. You get it? Does that look good there?
Yeah, let me focus in.
Maybe.
Okay. All right, go ahead and turn it.
I made him look younger. You may be getting a glare. Are you getting a glare?
No, that's good.
Huh?
That's good.
This is Barbara. That's another photograph that I had. There. Barbara. And because you've got to be very careful when you draw people, especially women. If they don't look like movie stars, they don't want the picture, you know. Yeah. Well, some of the pictures here. This is the bank directors. This is what we started with. These bank directors: Lou Lynn and Lou Santoon, Dr. Thomas, Carmen Molnar, Henry, and Don Fox, and Bud Murphy. This is our charter. This is the charter, a copy of the charter of the bank. And then we increased the board as we made an extension over into Mount Pleasant. We picked up a few more board members. And then this is my grandchildren. This is Mike or Jeannie's children, Christy and Andy. And of course, this is Chuck's boy, of course. But this is his third year at college now, but again, this is the Lou Santone High.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I can tell you. Yeah, I can show you the picture. But that's. My wife don't like it, so I'll have to do another one. That was done in. That's an owl. I'm great for animals. This was done in. I don't know. 86. That's one of the, I did that on the kitchen table up there about 3 o'clock in the morning. It took me about 2 days, 2 evenings to do that. But I've lost a lot of friends, really, Doug, you know, Rotary. Dave Gould was a good friend of mine. He was secretary for years, you know, and he was always in bad shape. And Paul Sandusky, yeah, I can look back. And Henry Gordon. Yeah, if you look back at it. But I'll tell you one of them that I miss Van Dyke Humbert. Humbert was a good friend of mine. Even down there in Florida, we was together almost every day. Which I don't play golf, he plays golf. We played a lot of gin together, and we always went out to eat together. I tried to convince his wife to go back down, but I don't think she would. She wants to sell her property. But Van's a good friend. Sam Sparta was a good friend. I've lost a lot of them, and I'll tell you, as you get older, it's hard to make friends, but it's harder to lose them. It is. Makes you feel bad. Yeah, well, it's been an exciting life, huh? For me, I think it has. I've did a lot of things, you know. Been a lot of places. I don't know of anything else that I could do. I'm never sorry for anything I ever did. Of course, a lot of things I shouldn't have did, but then I'm never sorry for them because I made my mind up to do them and I did them. I don't want to go. Nobody does. But if I do, I can't take Rotary with me. I can't take anything with me. Would like to take a few bucks. Maybe I could buy my way into a better job there. But then I wouldn't know what to tell you.